We welcome you back to the Coach's Show here on SportsNetUSA.net. Another victory for the Fullerton College Hornets. That's 25 in a row for Fullerton College. They keep stretching their winning streak as we keep going on the Coach's Show. I'm being joined by Markelle Raymond. Markelle, you look at the first 6 weeks of your guys' season. All of a sudden, you go from struggling in week number 1, you switch over to week 2, and you guys turned it on.
That's what happens when you just decide to, stay focused and just trust the process the whole time. We all just chime in during practice and really lock in during practice all weekend. Trust the process of Coach Campbell and all the coaches on the coaching staff, so yeah.
When you look at your game specifically, is it your speed that you really rely on to get separation?
Yeah, I would say my speed is no doubt my biggest strength to getting separation. Just overall, really, yeah.
You look at this last Saturday against Palomar, you yourself getting a score. All of a sudden, you look at it and you say, all right, we have a win in conference. Does it feel better to get a win over a team like Palomar?
If any win, regardless, feels good, you know what I mean? A win is a win, no matter who it is. You come in and you execute no matter what. So, yeah, a win is a win.
Having Gresh back at quarterback, how does he differ to other quarterbacks that you've had in your past?
I would say he differs most importantly, because he has prior experience. Because he's a bounce back. So I think that's the biggest thing that separates him is his experience. Of course, his arm strength too, but like mental wise, what really matters is probably his experience.
And you talk about the mental aspect. A lot of people don't realize that when you're on the offense, you have to memorize giant playbooks and also balance that with studies and social life. How do you make sure that you keep everything balanced?
You really just gotta stay on top of your stuff. Like planners help. We got a team app that helps remind us. So just little stuff like that. You just gotta stay on top of your stuff, like in your own way. Everybody has a different way of how they plan and how they keep everything in their head and stuff. You know what I mean?
Do you think that it's easier for you to, like you said, people have their own way of memorizing things. Do you think that it's easier for you to apply your own way to, such as memorizing a playbook?
Yeah, because like I said, like I have my own way in remembering plays. Some people probably just have a really good memory and can remember it, but like I think everybody has their own different, technique, and it's just like studying school, like schoolwork. If you have your own technique of how to study, then you should be solid.
When it comes to wide receivers, there are some people who think, oh, receivers just go out there, they run, they try and get away from a defender, and they look for the pass. How do you respond to people who have that type of mindset?
It's a lot more. There's a lot more to it, and I don't think you'll really truly know until you experience it yourself. So, yeah, until you really experience it, you won't really know, because there's a lot of technical stuff that that really can get in the way and be a speed bump in your process of becoming a good wide receiver.
And when you talk about that, Fullerton in the last couple of years has kind of established a name for themselves with their wide receivers in excellent route running. How do you make sure that you stay on top of your route running game?
I feel like we're automatically going to stay on top of it. One, because Coach Griff is always on us during the week and always getting us ready. But other than that, off season, when people, behind the scenes, on the jug or cones, all that.
And when you talk about Coach Griffin, how has he helped you kind of boost your game in these first 6 weeks?
Coach Griff just does a really good job of I would say the most important thing he does is getting that dog mentality out of you. You know what I mean? So every week he's gonna push you to your limit, and just the standard he holds is just really high. So you're gonna want to rise to that standard no matter what. So I think that's a crucial thing.
When you're looking to this upcoming Saturday, what is something that the wide receiving core feels that they can exploit?
Same thing. Same thing we think every coming into every game. We just think we come in focused and ready and really execute. Then I don't think any secondary out there can really stop us, because I don't know, we got a lot of weapons. So I would say to answer that question, probably just do what we do and just execute.
Thank you, Markelle. Good luck on Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate you.
I'm being joined by defensive lineman Froude. Asher, week 1, you guys had a little bit of trouble getting to the quarterback. All of a sudden, you yourself in that Santa Ana game and the weeks after, you guys just stepped it up, and all of a sudden, you got 20 sacks to your credit.
Yeah, I think it's definitely our main focus as a D-line is to rush the quarterback. We give up a lot of other things to give ourselves the opportunity to get sacks, and everything started to click. A lot of these guys haven't played with each other before, and the first game the chemistry was kind of lacking. Our stunts were rough, but now we're really starting to get rolling, and we're feeling pretty confident as a D-line getting after the quarterback.
I talked to James Rawls last week, and he talked about how you guys work on your different moves, first and secondary moves. What is your first and secondary move?
So our first move is honestly just getting upfield and getting to the right depth. Honestly, that takes care of most things. If you're in the right spot, sacks tend to come to you. First move as a defensive end, though, would just be getting to the tackle's outside shoulder and working a swim or a rip. And then my secondary move would either be to spin or come underneath, depending on how the tackle's set. So it's a lot of it is just about reading the game and feeling comfortable with your moves and how to read the tackle and read the offense, depending on where the play is going.
And when you talk about that, I mean, a lot of people also don't realize, hey, sometimes defensive linemen can get pushed too far to the outside. How do you recover when you're in that situation?
If you're too far outside, especially in a pass situation, it's tough because you don't want to lose your contain. But at the same time, if you're too far outside, the gap is too big and it gives a hole for the quarterback. So typically, if you can make a move underneath and recover quick enough, that's what we would tend to do. Or ideally, you'd be able to squeeze down as well, which requires a lot more strength and is a lot tougher with good tackles like we face. So it depends on the player and depends on the situation, but we'd like to squeeze down that gap as quickly as possible.
And you talk about facing tougher tackles. I mean, the difference between high school to community college football is huge. What was the biggest adjustment for you?
I think in high school I saw a lot of big tackles that I went against, but a lot of them weren't very coordinated. I think here we face a lot of really good O-lines with a lot of size, but also really good technique, you know. So having big guys that can rely on that technique as well as their size is tougher to beat. So for us, just working on our technique, our speed, trying to do what we're good at and not necessarily just trying to take the physicality to do these big guys that we know we can't run over, but beating them with our speed and our moves is our main concern, you know. So working on that is really our number one priority as a D-line in terms of pass rush.
You hear some defenders say that they actually take a couple of study lessons from O-linemen just to see what the opposition has in store for them. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of conversation between the O-line and D-line that goes on, especially in scouting other teams during the game. I know the O-line will be telling us things that they're seeing that the opposing team's O-line is doing that we could pick up on, and we're doing the same for them about the D-line. But we've got a great O-line here, and we're all a team at the end of the day, so we're helping each other, trying to get them better, and we're trying to win the game. So if we can pick up something that the O-lineman is weak in, or a certain area he's weak in, or something he has to improve on, we'll tell him, and he'll do the same for us, you know. So it's an accountability thing, just trying to get the whole team better.
Being a part of a two-time national championship team, is that kind of greatness onus still on you guys as a defensive front?
Yeah, I mean, our D-line last year had the most sacks ever by a defensive line in football history, so we got big shoes to fill. We like to see ourselves as the focal point of the defense. We set the tone. We're right at the front, and without us, nothing can get done. So we really try to bring it to teams. We try to put the team on our shoulders and let everyone else make plays. But really it depends on our work, and we trust that the other position groups are going to take care of themselves. And as a defense, we're really starting to click, and everything's coming together. Linebackers, D-line working perfectly together, and the DBs are really getting at it, getting some picks. So we feel confident as a defense definitely going into this week.
And when you talk about working together, I mean, defensive linemen, of course, you love to hear them talk about going after the bull rush, getting after the quarterback. But you also have to remember that there's a rushing game, a rushing attack that you have to defend against. How do you make sure that you are skilled on both facets?
I think that's the biggest part about being a good defensive lineman, is being multiversed in both the run and the pass game and reading it quickly. Being able to read your tackle and tell if they're giving you a pass set or a run set is what sets a lot of good players aside from average players. So I think for us, we work on that a lot in practice, and depending on the team, O-line's set differently. But if you can play both well, your game is just so much better. And so especially for us, we play a lot of passing teams, but a lot of people want to think they can show up and try run on us, which we don't like to take. So yeah, our first priority is to be good in the run game. That forces a team to pass. Once we set them up to pass, we get after the quarterback.
You look at how college football is kind of evolving at this point. It's going away from that more pro-type quarterback who sits back in the pocket and tosses downfield, all of a sudden turning into more and more hybrid as it keeps going along. Does that make you, as a defensive lineman, kind of roll your eyes when you realize that you have another running quarterback coming up over the weekend?
I think it's quite exciting for us. It is frustrating in the sense that we know we don't have 3 or 4 seconds to get to the quarterback while he's just going to sit back there and pick a receiver. Most of the guys we come against are going to be pretty mobile. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is that we have to rely on the rest of the D-line to be in the right positions to plug up those holes so he has nowhere to go. But we feel confident on a sprint out. If the quarterback's trying to get to the boundary, we have fast defensive ends, and our defensive tackles are quick as well, filling up their gaps. So if we can give a running quarterback nowhere to go, we're going to get a sack at the end of the day.
Thank you, Asher. Best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Before we go even further, we want to stop for a second and thank our sponsor, the people who have been there with SportsNetUSA.net since the beginning. Miller Toyota of Anaheim. If you're looking for a new or used vehicle for someone you know and love, maybe it be a coworker, maybe it be a family member, or perhaps you have a student in your family who you want them to get around safely, get around town, maybe get to school, pick up some friends, look no further than Miller Toyota of Anaheim. They have the widest variety and selection of new and used vehicles right there at the corner of the 91 and Euclid. So if you're looking for that new and used vehicle, go right there to the 91 and Euclid. You can also visit them online at MillerToyotaofAnaheim.com. Miller Toyota of Anaheim supports high school sports, community college sports, and most of all, education. Once again, that is Miller Toyota of Anaheim. So as we've said each and every week here on the Coaches Show, SportsNetUSA.net is the leader in community college football. LA Valle, Golden West, Fullerton College, in addition to East LA College, all hosted here on SportsNetUSA.net. And every week we go over these recaps just to catch everybody up on what's going on in the CCCAA, in addition to SportsNetUSA.net's teams. Well, 3 out of the 4 teams for SportsNetUSA.net were in play this last Saturday. We start over with Fullerton College and Palomar for our first recap of the afternoon. Fullerton College, currently undefeated on the season and trying to go into Escondido High School, where Palomar plays, and trying to get that extra victory, tack it on to their current 24-game win streak, the longest winning streak in California and the nation. They were trying to add to it on Saturday. Things wouldn't start out the best for Fullerton College, as Palomar would get on the board first with a 46-yard touchdown run by Connor Curry to make it 7-0 just 45 seconds in. Fullerton then right after had a Markelle Raymond 26-yard touchdown pass from Gresh Jensen to even up the score. That only took 2 plays and 30 seconds for Fullerton to come away with that scoring drive, just 1 minute and 7 seconds later. Then Fullerton turned around just 4 minutes later. Xavier Green with a 36-yard pass from Gresh Jensen. That made it 14-7. Fullerton started off this game after Palomar struck first. Fullerton came back with 5 straight scoring plays, the third of which was Troy LaFridge, who had himself a 27-yard interception return for a touchdown. That would be the second pick six that Fullerton College DBs have scored this season. That was all in the first quarter. We move on to the second, where Fullerton and Markelle Raymond had himself a 4-yard pass from Jensen to make it 28-7, and it wouldn't stop there for both Gresh Jensen and Quinn Commons, who got into the action in the second quarter and threw a 59-yard touchdown pass to Robert Downs III. That capped off a 12-play, 84-yard drive in just 4 minutes and 4 seconds of action. So with 8:25 left to go in the second quarter, all of a sudden it's 35-7 Fullerton, and everyone was kind of expecting, you know what, this is the time where, like we saw last season, Fullerton would just step on the gas, and the rest of the way it's going to be the Hornets, and they'll run away with this one by 50 or 60. That wouldn't be the case for Saturday afternoon, as Palomar just 1 minute and 40 seconds later had a Devion Sneed 1-yard touchdown run that made it 35-14, and they would be back to within just 2 scores thanks to Sneed's second 1-yard touchdown run of the quarter with just 13 seconds left to go until halftime. That finished off a 6-play, 86-yard drive in just 1 minute and 52 seconds. So at the half, it was 35-21 in favor of Fullerton, and Palomar coming out of the half, they would get a 28-yard field goal from Mark Meter to make it 35-24. So all of a sudden, it's an 11-point game, and Palomar is within striking distance of Fullerton. But for the Fullerton College Hornets, as they have done each of the last 3 years, They had the sense to close out a football game. Fullerton with Robert Downs III catching his second touchdown pass of the afternoon and second from two different QBs. Robert Downs III with a 65-yard touchdown pass from Gresh Jensen made it 42-24, and Fullerton would tack on two more touchdowns thanks to a Sean Carter 47-yard touchdown pass, also from Jensen, and Zach Smith, who got into the game and ran for a 22-yard run for a TD. Palomar would close out the scoring with a Logan Gamble 4-yard touchdown pass from Shea Morales to make it 56-31 the final. Fullerton College with the victory. They move up to 6-0 this season. They are one of the only teams to have 6 wins in the entire nation, and they continue that 25-game winning streak that is the highest in the nation so far. Fullerton had 28 first downs compared to Palomar's just 22. Fullerton had 16 in the air and 8 on the ground, and 4 of them due to penalties. On third down, they were just middle of the pack, we'll say, at 58%, 7 of 12 in third down efficiency, and 1 of 1 on fourth. For Palomar, it didn't go so well on third down, 22%, 4 of 18 on third down efficiency. They were 60% on fourth down at 3 of 5. For Fullerton, that explosive offense that we had seen in the last 2 years, 611 yards of total offensive output, they arrived once again. They had 480 in the air, 131 on the ground, and compared to Palomar, who did put up 418 yards overall, 269 in the air and 149 on the ground. But when you look at Fullerton and Gresh Jensen with that 421-yard output on 22 of 36, he had a long of 65 and 5 touchdowns in addition to an interception as well. Connor Curry on the other side with 17 of 32 for 206 and a long of 61. However, he was intercepted 2 times, and for Fullerton, that was something big in the football game. They were able to get those takeaways, and for Fullerton, they came away with 3 interceptions, one of them taken to the house by Troy LaFridge. Quinn Commons had himself 5 attempts for 35 yards rushing. He actually led the pack rushing-wise for Fullerton, and he had a long of 31 and also a touchdown score as well in the air. Robert Downs III led the pack in receiving, 5 receptions for 181, a long of 65 and 2 touchdowns. So Fullerton College comes away with a victory on Saturday afternoon, and they move up to 6-0 this year. We move on to LA Valle, who had themselves a huge week last week. The LA Valle Monarchs put up over 600 yards of offense last week against LA Southwest, something they haven't done in over 2 seasons. Well, at least since Robert Tucker had been there for the 2015 and 2016 seasons. LA Valle just wasn't an offensively known team. They were really specific on their defense. They had the number 2 defensive team in the state 2 years ago. Well, this year they're trying to recapture that magic and get back to the American Division Championship. And the only way that they're going to do that is if they find an offensive spark. Well, they move over to Saturday afternoon against West LA, and LA Valle started that game off absolutely on fire. To say that the weekend belonged to the Monarchs is an understatement. LA Valle had Terrell Love Jr. run for 10 yards and a touchdown run in the first 2 minutes of play. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, at least they were able to march down the field pretty quickly in 108. Well, it was actually because on the opening kickoff, LA Valle was able to force a fumble and recovered at the 43-yard line. Now, they would score the touchdown on Terrell Love Jr.'s 10-yard run, and then they'd kick it off again. Well, wouldn't you know it, on the second straight kickoff, they forced another fumble. And West LA had 2 turnovers in the first 2 minutes of play, and just 1 play later, 11 seconds later, LA Valle was back in the end zone thanks to a Ahmad Kent 24-yard touchdown run to make it 14-0. LA Valle would have 4 straight scoring drives to start off the game. Terrell Love Jr. got his second touchdown run of the afternoon, second in the first quarter at the 9:47 mark. That capped off a 5-play, 74-yard drive in 1:47 of game time to make it 21-0. To go into the second quarter, LA Valle had a 24-0 lead over top of West LA, and that's when West LA would come back with a C. Williams 27-yard run. That would really bring them to as close as they would get all night long. 24-7, and LA Valle kind of closed it out the rest of the way. West LA never got back on the board, as LA Valle ended up coming right back and scored 7 straight times. Terrell Love Jr. with 7:34 left to go in the second. He got another touchdown run. Jake Calver got his 3rd field goal of the afternoon, and Terrell Love Jr. finished off the half for LA Valle with a 3-yard touchdown run that finished off a 4-play, 29-yard drive for the LA Valle Monarchs, making it 41-7 at the half. LA Valle coming out of halftime had Jameer Bryson bring back the second half kickoff all the way to the house. 94-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. It was 48-7, and it would be Jameer Bryson who scored once again with 9:33 left to go in the third quarter. Darian Albrecht got a 2-yard run with 4:13 left to go in the third, and Jake Calver finished off the scoring with a field goal 37 yards out. 65-7 is where that game would end up, as LA Valle was all over West LA. They scored 24 in the first quarter, 17 in the second, 21 in the third, and 3 in the fourth quarter. And LA Valle finishes on top, moving them up to 4-2 this season. For LA Valle, 35 first downs. West LA with just 9. LA Valle was terrific on third down, 53%, 8 of 15. West LA not so great. They were 8%, 1 of 12. And in the CCCAA, that is actually, unfortunately for West LA, that is in the top 3 of worst appearances on third down efficiency in a single game this season. Fourth down efficiency, both teams were 50%, but LA Valle for the second week in a row get near 600 yards offense, and net passing, 173. Not terrific, still passing, but it was their rushing yards that really boosted them in this ballgame. 376 rushing yards on 55 attempts. They had 6.8 per carry. Now, when you're thinking about that, that means that every time that they touched the football and ran it, they were just 3 yards away from the sticks after the play ended. An absolutely terrific appearance rushing-wise for LA Valle. Ahmad Kent led the way, rushing 16 attempts, 101, and an average of 6.3 with a touchdown. Terrell Love was terrific in the first half. 13 attempts for 72 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did not end up getting a single carry in the second half, as Darian Albrecht also had himself a 71-yard night. Joshua Evans with 60, Jameer Bryson with 42 and a touchdown, and Julius Sebastiano, the backup QB, even got into it with 28 yards worth of rushing on 8 attempts. Patrick Gonzalez finished 9 of 19 in the air with 137 and a long of 28, no touchdowns, no interceptions. On the other side for West LA, well, it's unfortunate for West LA, as they had Devin Shea throw for 16 of 25 for just 81 yards, and he got picked off twice. Christian Williams had the only touchdown run of the afternoon for the West LA squad. Ends up with a 1-5 record after this game ends against LA Valle. So LA Valle will continue here on SportsNetUSA.net, and you're going to have to check in on Saturday as we get set for the 4th edition of the SportsNetUSA.net American Division Rankings. Looks like LA Valle may get some due votes to get themselves into the top 10 for the second time this season. For the final game here on SportsNetUSA.net and the Coach's Show recap, a little bit of a different look on Saturday as Santa Ana College got their first game here on SportsNetUSA.net as a host team. We had already seen them take on Fullerton College, and that's kind of where their struggles began, where they ended up dropping that game 85-0 to Fullerton College, and it was an absolute barn burner for Fullerton as they ran all over Santa Ana. Well, the Dons were looking to rebound, and they have the ability to do so. The question is, could they do it against LA Southwest in their first conference game of the season? That game started off and both teams traded turnovers to start the game off. They just couldn't get their offense to really start to click. That's when Porfirio Hernandez had a 22-yard field goal that finished off a 7-play, 44-yard drive in 3:36 of game time to make it Santa Ana 3 and LA Southwest 0. Now, Hernandez would be a pretty key component in this afternoon's ball game, as he would finish 3 of 3 in field goals. Why? Because he had a 34-yarder in the fourth quarter with 10:15 left to go. It was 6-0 Santa Ana, and Hernandez, with exactly 1 minute on the clock, would make it 9-0. You go into that fourth quarter, Santa Ana and LA Southwest. When you look at LA Southwest, they were coming into the game with one of the more dangerous quarterbacks in all of the state of California. Markelle Ellis, who had over 900 yards passing entering the game, was looking to take on Santa Ana and add to his totals. He only had 5 interceptions all season long. He had 12 touchdown passes to his credit, and he was looking to take on the Dons on Saturday. Well, we move over back to the fourth quarter. Markelle Ellis, up to that point, well, he wasn't able to get into the end zone. Neither was LA Southwest as a whole. They had Joel Robles try and go out there and kick a 35-yarder that wouldn't connect as it was blocked by the Dons. And that would be really as close as LA Southwest got until midway through the fourth, where all of a sudden LA Southwest was inside the 2. However, a couple of bad decisions by the LA Southwest offense and some pretty good defending by Santa Ana forced that ball to go all the way back to the 25-yard line, thus finishing off the scoring attempt for LA Southwest. Back we go to under a minute to go left in the fourth quarter. LA Southwest put the ball in the hands of Markelle Ellis. The team was down 9-0. Santa Ana had the lead. Markelle Ellis started to drive the team down the field. He already pushed them up 25 yards on 3 plays. However, as he got close to the 20-yard line of Santa Ana, he tossed the ball up over to the right-hand side on a crossing pattern, and it was intercepted by Samuel Warren II for an 80-yard touchdown return on the INT. Santa Ana would ice the game on that interception for a touchdown, and they would make it 16-0, the final score, as LA Southwest just wasn't able to get on the board all afternoon. And the thing with LA Southwest in that game is that LA Southwest actually outgained the Santa Ana Dons. They had 21 first downs to Santa Ana's 20, 327 yards of total offense compared to Santa Ana's 289, 275 in the air, and Santa Ana 135. However, what really cost LA Southwest is the fact that they weren't able to get their rushing attack going. Only 52 yards all afternoon. Santa Ana had 154 yards on the ground. For LA Southwest and that dangerous QB, Markelle Ellis, 26 of 45 for 275 and a long of 36. He had that interception that was returned for a touchdown with under 30 seconds left to go, and he would finish with no touchdown passes at all. Joshua Hayward, who was pretty frustrated all night long, including giving up a fumble in the third quarter after a 25-yard rush upfield. He finished with 12 attempts for 30 yards and a long of 17 with no touchdowns and 1 fumble loss. Now, Markelle Ellis, who you see there in that rushing column, Ellis had himself a pretty good day rushing-wise, or so we thought up until the third quarter. He had rushed for near 40 yards all afternoon with a long of 18. However, whenever he would step back in the pocket and get a little bit of pressure put on him by Santa Ana, he would be driven back 20, 22 yards, and he finished with -1 rushing yards all afternoon on 10 attempts and a long of 18. Josh Hill for Santa Ana, 19 attempts for 102, and he had a long of 17, averaged 5.4. Kenneth Lamb had 7 attempts for 47 yards and a long of 15. So the final score, once again, a 16-0 takeaway by Santa Ana. Santa Ana now moves up to 2-3 this season, and they are 1-0 in conference. For LA Southwest, they dropped to 1-5 this year and 0-1 in the American Metro League. Now, for this upcoming Saturday, we're going to have a host of games coming up here on SportsNetUSA.net, your leader for community college football. And everything kind of starts off with the Fullerton College Hornets. Fullerton College is going to be on the air. That will be at 1 p.m. as they take on the Cerritos Falcons from Yorba Linda. Corey Nalen, Mark Pavlovich will both be on the call there. You can listen or watch online at SportsNetUSA.net. Not to mention, Golden West College will be back on the air with the franchise, Rashawn Haylock, going down and traveling to LaBard Stadium down at Orange Coast. So once again, Golden West and Fullerton College, both back here on SportsNetUSA.net on Saturday afternoon. So we want to thank both guys who joined us here on the Coaches Show this week, Markelle, Raymond, and Asher Frow as well. Once again, Fullerton College this upcoming Saturday, they're going to have their match right here on SportsNetUSA.net. You can listen to Corey Nayland, Mark Pavlovich on the call there. I'm Ryan Osborne. You've been watching the Coaches Show here on SportsNetUSA.net.